I think the Western governments, the way I see it, I think they've looked at it and said, there's a country that's open for business and we can't trade with it because we've put sanctions. Now, that's not a bad thing. I think Zimbabwe applying that look east policy has helped, because Zimbabwe didn't sit and wait for people to lift sanctions. As a country, they carried on operating. They carried on doing business. They started doing business with Eastern countries. So it's the perceptions of Zimbabwe were really painted by political agendas, and I think the Labour Party had a lot to do with that. So I think the change in governments, in Western governments, with George Bush coming out and his whole axis of evil agenda being sidelined by the Obama administration, I think that's helped, and I commend those the current governments in America and in the UK for being bold enough to look at Zimbabwe on her merits. A lot of the stuff that was said in the past was politically motivated and as a result inaccurate. The whole issue in Zimbabwe was about land, and that land issue was one which was debated at Lancaster House, and that whole land issue, the terms and agreements were all laid down in paper. So there wasn't any issue that needed to go to the press. Everything was on paper for anyone to see. But I think it also proved that the Western governments can use the media as a tool, because when you're a Zimbabwean and you know what's going on in Zimbabwe and you see what they're reporting in the news, they didn't always correlate. That said, there were bad things happening. I won't pretend and act like things didn't. There were cholera outbreaks. There were certain things that happened in the country, but I think that a large amount of what we saw in the press was politically motivated and as a result occasionally inaccurate.